This is a Fender DG5NAT, and it's a model from the affordable end of the acoustic guitar market. It's what's known as a dreadnought, which is this kind of big, deep, rectangular body with the neck joining it at the 14th fret. If you're just starting out playing acoustic guitar and you're on a modest budget, this is the kind of guitar you'll be looking at. The top, back, and sides are laminated. The fretboard is a lower grade wood dyed black, and it doesn't have a pickup in it or anything like that. It's also made in China. Although this specific model isn't available anymore, you can find it and guitars like it used for less than $100. That doesn't mean it's a bad guitar, far from it. It just doesn't have certain things that more advanced players might be looking for, like solid tone woods, a good pickup system, or even fancy aesthetic appointments. It's built to a price, so this guitar doesn't have any non-essential features that would drive up the cost. It sounds a bit thin and scratchy compared to my other acoustics, and it doesn't feel quite as nice to play, so I don't use it much, and I'm ashamed to admit that I've neglected it a little bit. But we're going to remedy that today. This entry-level guitar can in fact be a perfectly decent guitar for any player to use as long as you look after it. Today we're going to look at putting new strings on it and maintaining it so you can get the best use out of it. I'm going to keep it as simple as I can and avoid using any specialized tools to make sure that anyone with any level of acoustic guitar can follow along. First of all, it's important to understand what an acoustic guitar is. The body of an acoustic guitar is a very thin and very light wooden box, and even though it's supported with internal bracing, it's still going to be very sensitive to changes in temperature and humidity. The strings of a typical acoustic guitar tuned to concert pitch exert over 200 pounds of pressure, so an acoustic guitar kept in the wrong conditions will literally start to pull itself apart. Don't panic though. In order to avoid this, all you need to do is keep your guitar in a space that's dry and doesn't get too hot or too cold. A good hard case might be a luxury for an affordable guitar, but as well as protecting your guitar from physical damage, it will help to keep it at an even temperature and humidity. You don't need to take all the strings off your guitar every time you change them, but once or twice a year I like to give guitars a good clean and once over to make sure there isn't anything that needs addressing. The first thing here is, you're not Aerosmith's guitar tech. You're not about to restring 20 guitars before lunch, so you don't need one of those little hand crank things to turn your tuners. I don't own one, and I never will. They put stress on your tuners that doesn't need putting on them, and they save you, what, a minute? If you don't have a minute to spare, you shouldn't be working on your guitar. I start by slackening off the old strings and taking them out of the tuners, and then wrapping them so I don't have any loose string ends whipping around, scratching the guitar or stabbing me in the eye. Not all acoustic guitars use these bridge pins, but affordable ones will tend to. Usually they'll be plastic, and they are a replaceable part, so don't worry too much if you happen to lose one or break one. Obviously, you'd rather not though, so we're going to be careful when pulling them out. Sometimes you can just pull the pin out with your fingers, but if they're really stuck in there because we've taken all the strings off, you can reach inside and give them a push to help them on their way. Keep a tray or a bowl or some kind of container handy whenever you're working on a guitar, and put all the loose parts in there. It'll save you a lot of crawling around under the bed with a flashlight. Once you've got all the strings off, take a minute to just have a look over the guitar. In particular, sight up and down the neck, which will allow you to see if the frets are all neat and even, and make sure there isn't any twisting or bowing in the neck. Even if you don't find any issues, it's important to familiarize yourself with the guitar so you can see if anything's changed next time. If you do see something that strikes you as odd or out of place, but you're not sure how to fix it, leave it alone until you can put it in front of someone who knows what they're doing. I've been fixing up guitars for a long time, and trust me that the most common cause of damage to guitars at this level is people trying to fix stuff they don't know how to fix, or don't have the proper tools to fix, and making it worse. I understand it can be very frustrating when you just want to play your guitar, and instead you come across some sort of issue that means you can't, but these are fragile things, and it's a lot easier to break them than it is to fix them. Today's guitar is so affordable that there would be very few situations where it would be cheaper to repair it than it would be to just buy a new one. The bottom line is be very careful and don't do anything you're not 100% confident you can do right. The same goes for cleaning. Affordable guitars mostly come with a durable polyurethane finish, but that doesn't mean they're indestructible. The reason you clean a guitar is that dirt retains moisture, and moisture is bad for wood and it's bad for metal, and those are two things guitars are made from. But you're not disinfecting it or pretending it's a brand new guitar. For that reason, my approach to cleaning is minimal. 50% of the time, a dry cloth will clean off a guitar as much as it needs to be cleaned, and 45% of the time, you might need the cloth to be slightly damp. The remaining 5% you might use a specific product. For example, if your sweat and skin oils are acidic, you might use a product called Fast Fret to wipe off and condition your strings after every time you play. This will prolong the life of the strings and keep your fretboard in better shape. We'll look at that in a minute. Another product you can use regularly is lemon oil, which doesn't contain any lemons, but is in fact a mineral oil that can be used to clean and condition open-grained woods. With this stuff, a little goes a very long way. Just a few drops on a clean cloth, wipe down the fretboard and leave it for a little while. Then wipe it back off to get rid of the excess and the dirt that it's loosened. If you go online, you'll see a lot of guys warning you off lemon oil, but the free tip for you here is there's a lot of armchair experts on the internet, and a lot of those guys are only repeating something some other armchair expert wrote on a message board. In general, don't be tempted to take advice just because it sounds right. 3 drops of lemon oil isn't going to destroy your fretboard, and there isn't some 50-cent tin of whatever at your local hardware store that real pros use instead. I've used lemon oil for 30 years, and it's worked for 30 years, and I've never seen it do anything to a guitar that I didn't want it to do. Before we put new strings on, there's a little extra trick that we can do to improve tuning stability. There are products you can get for this, but I use a pencil because pencil lead is made of graphite, and graphite is an excellent lubricant. We're going to scribble in the nut slots and down at the saddle, which will stop the strings binding up at those places. This is a set of Martin Eric Clapton strings. I'm not recommending them over any other set. I got them because they were on a deal, but they're fine. A bit like Clapton himself, they're reassuringly middle of the road. I start low to high, but you can go the other way. You can do them in whatever order you want, because until I have the whole set on, I'm not going to put them under any real tension. You put the ball end of the string into the hole, then you insert the pin with the little groove facing toward the neck, and the string in that little groove. Hold down the pin with your thumb, and then carefully pull on the string until it wedges into place. Then you take the string, don't pull on it, just feed it through the tuner hole. It'll be easier if you turn the tuner so the hole is in line with the string. Some people use other methods to lock their strings, but this is mine, and I use it because it leaves the least amount of string winds around the tuner post. That's going to help with tuning stability. All I do is I pull it through the hole, turn it back around and loop it under itself to where when you tune it up, the string under tension is going to lock it in place. The only trick here is to leave enough string so you get at least a half turn on the post, but not so much you get loads of turns. Again, the reason for this is tuning stability. The more string winds you have around the post, the less stable your tuning. It's a balance you'll achieve through trial and error. Once you have all the strings on, tune them roughly up to pitch. I say roughly because they're going to go out of tune again several times before we're done. As you tune up, the bridge pins might want to pop back out of their slots. You can keep your thumb on each pin as you're tuning just to make sure they stay put. Now, go up and down each string, kind of grabbing and twisting like this. The first time you do this, the string will drop a few steps out of tune. Tune back up and do it again, and you'll hear the string drops a little bit less out of tune. Repeat this until the string doesn't drop out of tune at all. What's happening here is the string is adapting to being under tension, and giving them a good stretch like this speeds that process up. Then we're going to snip the ends of the strings. No special technique here, just use any decent set of metal clippers and go in as close to the tuner post as you can. And then the last thing we're going to do is apply some of this fast fret. This is optional, but it can help keep your strings fresh for longer, plus it gives them a slightly silky feel that makes them easier to get around on. And once all of this is done, here's what this affordable guitar can sound like. So is it the best acoustic guitar I've ever heard? No, of course not. But it is a very good start, and it could get you a pretty long way before you need to think about upgrading, which in my book is exactly what you want from an entry-level instrument. Like I said, you don't need to do all of this every time you change your strings, but it certainly won't hurt, and personally, I enjoy blocking off a couple of hours to do 3 or 4 guitars at once, and really get into that zen headspace of instrument care. Even if you don't enjoy this aspect of guitar ownership as much, it's still important to go slowly and carefully and take your time to make sure your guitars stay in the best possible playing condition. If you have any questions about anything I've covered here or anything I haven't covered, please leave a comment. I do try to reply to everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.